Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Rangers Reviews morning briefing on this Tuesday morning. We're a couple of days after the last Rangers game, a couple of days before the next one, but we're here as we are every weekday, bringing you up to date with all the latest chats on Rangers. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time we go live in the morning and you're up to date with all things Rangers. As I say, just me and Jonny McFarlane today. Jonny, how are you today, mate?
Good. Yeah, bright and breezy as always. Looking forward to some Rangers chat to get the day started.
Absolutely good stuff. Right, well, we're going to talk today mainly about the defence and the goalkeeping situation, Jonny. Obviously, we've got Sparta on Thursday. We had Dundee on Saturday. So tomorrow and Thursday will be more of a detailed look at what you can expect from them as an opponent and how Rangers might try to play when they get over there. Jonny, the main takeaway for me on Saturday was that although Rangers, over the last few games, you look at Motherwell, Livingston, there's been more positives there. I thought the first half against Motherwell and the second half against Livingston was probably the two best halves of the season in terms of the kind of pressure we expect from Rangers, pinning teams back, maintaining attacks, maintaining pressure. Against Dundee, though, there was the kind of continuation of another trend, which was the vulnerability of the defence, the vulnerability to long balls, which we've written about on the Rangers review site yesterday. 5 goals in 7 games. This time last season, after 7 games, Rangers had conceded an XG of 1.5. This season, after 7 games, that number's at 5.6. Do you think it's as big an issue as that makes it out to be? Is it teething issues? What do you put it down to?
Well, how long have you got? I think there's a number of issues. There's a number of issues at play in the Rangers' defence. I think one that we'll go on to start off with, probably goalkeeping, given that Rangers are rotating their goalkeeper position much more than they were this time last year. Now, there was a bit of movement last year, and John McLaughlin did start a few games. And as the season went on, McGregor took over that role, essentially. Doesn't look like that's going to happen so much this year. McGregor has been in for the biggest games, but McLaughlin, it looks to me like he's getting a lot more action. And you've got to ask whether or not that's going to contribute to perhaps a little bit of the communication problems that we've seen taking place in that defence, because not only is the defensive line's not settled, the goalkeeping position isn't really settled. Now, that might have nothing to do with it, but it's just another element of complexity to this discussion, given it's slightly different and it's not the way most teams tend to rotate in that position. They don't rotate at all because goalkeepers are kind of considered a sort of rock by most managers, I think, most coaches. So it's interesting to see how that's going to pan out. Then you look at the actual defence itself. You've got a major injury to Philip Helander, who's, I think, inarguably the best defender out of the 4 that Rangers have there, which is not ideal. That's caused disruption. You've got the fullbacks now changing quite a lot. Previously, it was Barisic and Tavernier, with Bassey or Patterson only really coming in if there was an injury. Now it's part of the rotation. So you've got changes there. You've got Jack Simpson coming in, still finding his feet as a Rangers player. You've got issues in terms of the midfield and, again, disruption with injury, with COVID. And then up front, I feel like there's been and you've highlighted this brilliantly on the site, there's been a lack of defending from the front in a way that has helped allow teams to pick out long balls over the top that have caused Rangers serious problems. So there's a number of things going on there, and the only thing that you can really do to solve a lot of this is allow the Rangers team time to settle down and the injuries to calm, and for Gerrard to be able to pick a settled side once again. And we're maybe now getting a few weeks away from that being the case, but there's no doubt it's been a disappointing and difficult start to the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning to Owen and Alan, William and Callum. Callum there saying that McLaughlin to be #1 for Rangers, in my opinion. I mean,
that's a big one.
But then
Josh, I mean, Alan McGregor was player of the year.
He was amazing last season, wasn't he? But then also, now Alan McGregor's 39 going on 40. He's not going to be phased if he's chucked into an Old Firm game tomorrow. You know, he's played in hundreds of them. But it's just interesting because there's a reason that teams don't do this, really, isn't there? Like, what team almost has like a star striker but a star goalkeeper that they wheel out for different games? I don't know whether Stephen Gerrard said, I think it was before the home Lyon game, that he hadn't risked Alan McGregor away at St Johnstone because of an injury. And it wasn't a big injury, but it was something that maybe could have been aggravated if he played. So I wonder whether there's just been a continuation of that, because McGregor also started away at Ross County. And I wonder whether Rangers are just really trying to get him right for one last season, really trying to ensure that he doesn't pick up a niggling injury at this point, if that was the case a couple of weeks ago, and put McLaughlin in. But equally, McLaughlin, as we've got on the site this morning with Derek writing a piece about it, I think it's 16 clean sheets in 20. His penalty save at the weekend was excellent. And I think what McLaughlin has is he's really calm with the ball at his feet. I think he's a better distributor. I also think he's quicker off his line. And I think you've seen that, maybe not quite as quick as young McCrory, but you've seen with McCrory in the Old Firm game how he could limit the space. And I don't know if Al McGregor is able to do that to the same degree anymore. You'd imagine not, going on 40. So it's a difficult conundrum, but I guess while that selection issue or rotation continues to persist, there'll be speculation about it, because, as we say, it's rare in world football, but you've had 3 goalkeepers playing by this point. I know one was enforced, but for me, maybe as well, it's that thing of away from home. McLaughlin's a little bit quicker off his line, a little bit. I thought he's been very good with the ball at his feet. I don't know if you remember the game away at St Johnstone when Calvin Bassey sold him a hospital ball on 46 minutes. At the weekend as well, there was nervy moments in that first half with Balogun and Goldson on the ball. Balogun almost got caught in his own box with it, but got a lucky break. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks with that. I think the good thing is that there's confidence in either goalkeeper. Robin McFarlane there saying, I believe McGregor is being judged against the bigger teams than McLaughlin. In my opinion, McGregor is better at shot stopping and crosses. We will see. We'll move on, Jonny, to speak about the defence more broadly. Let's start with the long ball. We'll call it a trend again. At the weekend, Paul McMullen obviously scored from won a penalty from a ball over the top that was almost a mirror image to that of Michael O'Halloran. Stephen Gerrard said after the Motherwell game they'd have to look at why the long ball that Tony Watt latched onto and McGregor made an excellent save from caused the team such issues. Against Ross County it was different, but it was a similar type of phase of play. I mean, watching that, having been at all these games, Jonny, watching them, you almost fear at one point this is going to happen. And for me, having the chance yesterday to go back and look at it, it was pretty stark how poor often the pressure on the ball has been. And for me, it's as simple as, if you're going to leave a gap that big at the back, you're doing it so that you can maintain pressure on the team. And if you don't do that, that's going to happen probably once a game through chance, if nothing else.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, listen, Rangers are a bit of a well-oiled machine, and for it to work, that well-oiled machine, it needs all the parts doing their function. Mm-hmm. And when a department within that stops working to the same extent that it would normally do, then there's going to be issues. And I think you're seeing that so far this season. Rangers are just definitely not... They don't have that edge that they did last year. There's no doubt about it now. Listen, we've discussed it ad infinitum on these videos every day since the start of the season. Oh, could it be this thing? Could it be that thing? The truth is, there's a lot of things that it could be. And there's probably a lot of reasons for it. But sooner or later, the excuses are going to run out. Now, there's no harm being done to this season. Rangers are 6 points clear of Celtic, who, at the moment, given their injury situation and how they're performing, look like they could drop points at will. So Rangers are in a really, really good shape, despite having not played well. If they can start to click, if they can start to put it together, and especially in an attacking sense, Rangers could have this league done by the end of this month, almost. Now, say for example, let me clarify that because that'll get latched upon. What I mean is, say for example, Rangers were to win every game this month, they could end up, 12 points ahead of Celtic going into November.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really, really difficult to overcome that level of a gap, especially given you're going up against a team that didn't lose a game last year. So I think it's really, really important that Rangers twist the knife almost at the moment, while Celtic are vulnerable, while they're miles off their best, because I do believe Celtic will go and improve by spending significant sums in January. They absolutely need to do that, so I think they will do that. So while they're vulnerable, go after them now. Now is the time to strike, because it could be that come January, come February, they're in a much better position to sort of mount a more effective challenge. Rangers are in a good shape now. They've got the championship mentality of being able to grind out games when they're not playing well. So I think the challenge is to go out and actually, make it count right now. I see somebody, Terry Monroe, saying you need to remember there's other clubs that could challenge the season. Sorry, Terry, I'm not buying that. I don't think that'll be the case. I think Hearts and Hibs can keep it going for 10 or 15 games, but after that they'll fall away. I just see no evidence to suggest to me that they have the quality in their squads to mount any kind of a challenge beyond December. I'm not buying it. You look at the quality and the depth in Rangers squad, and you look at the quality that's in Celtic's team, maybe not their squad. They're miles and miles and miles ahead of these teams. Miles. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you think, Joshua.
I don't think they are at the moment, but I agree with you in a sense of if you look at the over a season, I think the Rangers will accelerate away. Yeah, I mean, I think if we were going to Rangers were going to Tynecastle on Saturday, I think there would be a fair amount of trepidation before the game. I think the fact that Hibs and Hearts are both visiting Ibrox in the next 2 weekends, is a good chance for Rangers to go and meet the challenge. What are going to be the two biggest challenges probably outside of Celtic this season.
Definitely, that's going to be the case because Aberdeen don't look like they're going to be the team that we thought they might be under Steve Glass. So it's going to be Hibs and Hearts, I think. Yeah. So I mean, and one takeaway as well for the weekend from me was looking at John Lundstrom. I don't know what you think about this, Jonny, but it's 2 years I think since that, or almost 2 years now, or a year and a half since the three losses at Tynecastle. Was it? I think it was three in the space of 3 or 4 months. For me, John Lundstrom is going to love those type of games, and I think there was a reason that in Rangers TV interview, Stephen Gerrard was actually asked about John McLaughlin, but he was so enthused about John Lundstrom that he went on to speak about John Lundstrom in the answer. I think shows he just wanted to keep praising him. He called it a powerhouse performance, and I do think that we need that at some points. Gerrard liked to use Ross McCrory in that first season, or Lassana Koulibaly at the base of that midfield. And Tynecastle for a while, I think, was quite not a happy hunting ground, but there was a fair few comfortable wins there. One or two that spring to mind. I think it was 3-0 at the end of the season when Katic and Defoe and maybe Jack scored. So, yeah, Lundstrom's form is of real encouragement, but also I thought, just touching finally on Saturday, Jonny, Janis Hagi faded in the game a little bit, but I think this season he looks a much more complete player than last season. I think he speeds up attacks so well. Rangers suffered a little bit from a lack of a threat in behind to stretch the Dundee defence, which I think allowed them to just squeeze up that 5 or 10 yards and limit the space that Rangers had to play in. But for me, looking at it this season, it's hard to choose your first choice front three, because Kemar Roofe for me has to be in it. But that Hagi, Roofe, Hagi, Morelos, Kent front three that was so good last season, I think that's only been in play once or twice. Alish Kerr and Ross County twice. If they'd had that a little bit more of an ability to stretch the game in behind, I think you'd have seen that front three click a little bit more. But Janis Hagi for me, this is going to be a big season for him. He did good numbers last season,
but I think still at only 22, there's a real excitement about what he can offer this season, and based on how much he's improved.
Listen, I totally agree with you. And actually, what is going to start sparking up pretty soon, I would think, is some concern about his contract, because he's only got 2 years left, and that's including the remainder of the season. So 2 seasons, because he only signed a 3-year deal, which was a bit unusual, I thought, at the time, because he's such a young player. We'd normally sign a 4 or a 5-year deal. But yeah, he's only got, when it comes to January, it'll be a 1.5 years that he has on his contract. So I think you definitely want to get Janis Hagi tied up sooner rather than later. But all the noises that Steven Gerrard makes are about an intelligent agent that's behind the scenes, and he's the influence of his father. And I think there'll be an acknowledgement that it's not time to be going anywhere anytime soon for Janis Hagi.
Yep.
He looks like he's just building the foundations of what could be a pretty glittering Rangers career. And then there's plenty of time in the future for him to move on to a bigger club and a bigger league. He looks like he's definitely a guy with the talent to do that. But he's already had a few knocks in his career. He had the move to Italy, which didn't work out. He had the move to Belgium, which didn't work out. He's in a place where he's loved, he's respected, he has great facilities. We know that he's a beast of a trainer. Yeah. He loves to get in there and work on himself physically and psychologically. And he's someone that wants to get out in the training ground and practice what he's good at. We know he's an unbelievable passer and great set piece taker. So with all that, with that environment that's in place, Janis Hagi really couldn't be in a better club, and you would hope that would go a long way to securing his future at Ibrox long term, because he's certainly going to be an asset for this player trading model. That's for sure.
Yeah, sure. And you've also got, I think, Joe Repo's contracts until 2023, and he's had a bit of an indifferent seat start in some ways. But I actually think before the game against Livingston, he'd arguably been the best player middle to front for the few games before that. I think people forget how he'd made the most key passes, certainly before the weekend, of open play from any Rangers player, and it was great to see him put the finishing touches on the goal at the weekend, because that move, as Jared said, similar to Ross County, is all built around movement from the midfield, and Aribo, he still needs to add that ruthlessness for me to his game. To I think he's 25 now, going on 25, and coming into his peak years. I think if he can add that and his ability to go past players. I remember at the start of, I think it was last pre-season, when he scored did he not score 3 goals where he just dribbled by everyone in the box? Motherwell at home, Coventry at home. I think it was then. And he, I think when he adds that final touch to his game, people will see actually how he has been playing well. It's just a case of that little bit of perhaps confidence, but that ruthlessness as well.
I'd love to see him play as an actual number 10, Joshua.
Well, I think he did against. Did he not against? Was it Livingston the first half? He's more of a number 10.
Yeah, but I suppose what I'm getting at is, I suppose I'd like to see him play as a number 10 centrally behind 2.
Okay.
In a 3-4-1-2 type formation. I think he would be. It'd be really.
We all want to see a 3-4-1-2, don't we? We're all quite keen to see it come to play.
I think Rangers need to change up. I think it's time to have something in the locker that will bamboozle teams a little bit, and disrupt them a little bit and give them something to think about.
Yeah.
It also allows, obviously, Patterson and Tavernier in the same team. But more than that, it's about just slightly moving the goalposts when you're going up against a team who knows exactly what to expect and is drilled beyond what is normal to defend their patch. And Rangers always have to go up against that. It's always difficult, and you always need to find the answer. And I think to some extent now, teams have been up against it for so long, up against that Steven Gerrard formation.
Yeah.
They're starting to find ways to kind of neuter it and to disrupt it. And it's then up to the management team to go out and find something that they can throw in there as a hand grenade and just mix it up completely. I think Alan Kelly's just said that. It's about mixing it up, and that's absolutely spot on.
Now, the interesting thing as well is that we're going into our, need I remind you, 3rd international break next month. And then we're going into our 4th international break the month after. but we'll forget about that. But that's a lot of time on. I know a lot of players will be away, but what interests me is that if something new isn't done out of that in terms of not in terms of ripping up the values, ripping up the blueprint whatsoever, but changing it enough so that it's different, then it's just interesting to know what the thought process is. Obviously, we've covered at length Gerrard's comments, quite stark comments, speaking about variation in pre-season. We've covered how that's not really come to the fore yet this season. So it'll be interesting to see if that is being worked on, or whether or not that's something that the management staff think, actually, do you know what, we can't transfer what we're trying to do across to another system. Because it certainly doesn't seem like that yet, because the only difference we've seen in terms of, okay, this is very different, was the 10 minutes against Real Madrid with the 4-1-4-1. Aside from that, there's not really been any form of change. So, yeah, interesting to see. Obviously, we will keep it covered if across the Rangers review, if we do eventually see the 3-4-1-2, which I think we'd be very enthused about, all of us over here in this channel. I don't know if Derek wants to see the 3-4-1-2, but we'll just say he does, for the avoidance of doubt. Right, Jonny, we'll leave it there. Remember, folks, you can subscribe for just £1 to the Rangers review website. Today we have, as mentioned, a piece about Alan McGregor and John McLaughlin. We've got in-depth stuff for you every single day, covering the club you love from Monday to Sunday, tactical pieces, in-depth interviews, long-form interviews, video articles. So make sure you head over to the Rangers review site and click subscribe to take advantage of that £1 a month offer, cheaper than one newspaper, and you're getting it for the entirety of the month. We'll be back tomorrow morning and Thursday, where we're looking ahead to the Europa League game on Thursday evening. Until then, have a good rest of your Tuesday.